Today's message is really directed towards the young men and even those that have gotten into their 30s and 40s who find themselves living in a perpetual state of anxiety, feeling lost, without purpose. Something happened in the conversation that I had with my grandson a couple of days ago, and it really made me think. And it was a very simple question he had asked, and simply wanted to know why I never went to the zoo with he and his brothers when they were younger. That was one of his favorite things to do. And so they had a season pass to go to the zoo, and they went frequently. And I never went. And I never said anything. Nobody ever asked. It was just, I didn't want to go. But I don't even remember how the subject came up, but he asked, why I never did that. And being since he's 16 now, my opinion of the situation, I felt confident that I could share that with him without having him deviate his own opinion, because he really enjoyed going and seeing the animals and learning about them, and I didn't want to take that away from him. And so there was never any conversation outside of no. And so when he asked me the question, I asked him a question back, and I told him, I want you to tell me how you feel when you walk up to the lion's cage and you see those cats in there. What does it make you feel? And at first he said it's kind of scary because they're lions and blah blah blah, but he's fascinated by them. He thinks it's cool, and fair enough. And I told him, I said, that's, I used to think that too when I was a little kid. I said, but when I got to be an adult and I went to the San Diego Zoo with my son, and that was the last time that I stepped foot into one of those places, because I walked to the lion's cage and I caught eye contact with this animal, and I felt this sense of, I felt sorry for it, because it was almost like in that instant that majestic creature let me know, man, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. In that moment, the one attraction that I'd always looked forward to, it became very somber and sad, because I realized that this thing, even though the encampment, the enclosure, was made to simulate the environment that they're supposed to be in that moment where I caught eye contact with this cat, I realized that habitat was just like grabbing a lizard, throwing it in a jar and thinking that it's just like being outside because you put a stick and a couple of leaves in there. And it made me extremely sad. But in that conversation, when I was talking to him about that, went on to explain to him the way that they get those cats to behave the way they do is they remove all of their instincts from them. They feed them constantly to where that instinct to hunt never arises, so they never see the people who are taking care of them as food. And then if they get out of line, they'll isolate them and drug them until they get in line. It's the same across the board with these major beasts that could easily trample humans. Elephants are another example. When you take a baby and put it on a stake to where it can't move, you can put a nail in the ground and the elephant will believe that it can't release itself from its chains. And so what we do to these animals, these powerful animals, is we break their will, we break their spirit. But we don't do it through force. It's not necessarily always through force. In the case of the lion, what they do is they satiate the lion. They take away all of the lion's inclination to be what it is, and it becomes lazy. And in those situations, the lions don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what their function is. And then they've got food walking by, looking at the rails, snapping pictures, and it's got to be a insane reality for this cat. But if and when the cat is born in captivity, if it's bottle fed by a human and raised by a human, then it's really removed from what it's supposed to be. It has absolutely no idea how it's supposed to act and react amongst its peers. And if you took that lion, if you took that zoo lion that was raised from a cub and dropped it off in the Sahara or somewhere, where there's prides of lions, this dude would be out of pocket. He would probably be eliminated rather quickly because he wouldn't have the social skills. He wouldn't fit in. And that's really indicative of young men today. That was the epiphany that I had in speaking with my grandson. Young men today who find themselves surfing these channels, going through the manosphere, looking for answers, looking for another male lion to teach them how to roar, teach them how to move in the jungle of life. And what we have in our culture today, through a systematic removal of masculinity, is a bunch of caged lions that have absolutely no idea what they're supposed to do, who they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to move in society. And as you know, the days have gone by. That's really stuck. It's stuck in my mind how similar our society, especially in containing the male, how we have built this societal zoo around young men, from the education system all the way to the dating scene today. Everything is anti-male. It's anti-masculine. The way boys are taught in school, none of the biological developmental things that are scientifically proven, like the fact that girls mature faster than boys. These things aren't factored into when the young boys get into the school system. And then when they do get in the school system, they're forced to sit on their hands and learn in a manner that is more suited to little girls than it is little boys. We smash things, we break them, and then figure out how to put them back together. We are supposed to grind ourselves against the stones of life. And in that grinding, there's supposed to be men there to facilitate that process. And our society has systematically removed men from the lives of young children, and the ones that remain are so feminized. They're so they swing so far on this rainbow flag trip, or if they don't, they dare not speak up and be a man, because that is a surefire way to get yourself in trouble, is to exhibit any traits that are masculine at all in a classical sense. But the message that I want you young men to really consider is the fact that you have been brought up in a zoo. You have been brought up in a zoo that if you were raised by a single mother, it was constructed, and your first zookeeper, the first trainer that you got was your mother. And because of that, you learned how to deal with things like a little girl. Women cannot teach young boys how to deal with things the same way that men do. And so that's the first hurdle that you've had to deal with. And then you go into the school system, and then you factor in all the societal pressures and the insanity that is forced upon us. And it's very easy to see how we've got these young men who look and feel like caged animals. The cage isn't one that has been put upon men by force. When you look at how it was constructed, it is a very beautiful design. First, it was the liberation of the act of sharing intercourse with another person. They made that something that was a throwaway novelty. We started going through all of these different things that started taking away a man's incentive and reason to fight, taking away his purpose. And you go through all the different changes. These things that have been used to make men weak, make men satiated and comfortable, have all been done under the guise of fun, of necessity, of ease. And now so many young men are out of shape. They're physically incapable of doing any sort of physical task. They are mentally weak. They're societally retarded. And most of the things that they're comfortable doing confine them into a box, into a cage. Think about what you do on a day-to-day basis. You think you're free, you think you're doing the things that you want to do, but really consider what it is that you do. Think about what it is that you give your attention to, what you spend your time on, what you spend your money on. Think seriously about how you spend your days, and better yet, where you spend your days. If everything that you do is coming through this phone or your computer, if everything that you're doing, your whole experience in life is coming through the means of some type of screen, you're a zoo animal. You are nothing more than a zoo animal. And the reason why you find yourself in this depressed, anxious state is because you're living a life that goes against everything that you are meant to be, everything that you're meant to do. Biologically, what men are for is to do hard things. We're supposed to hunt, we're supposed to fight, and we're supposed to conquer. That's why we're built the way we are. That's why we think analytically the way that we do. That's why we band together in a tribe, because that's how you successfully do those things. A tribe of men are better hunters than a single man. A tribe of Vikings is better than one single man. That's the way men operate. That's the way of nature. That's how we're supposed to be. And so if that's the way that we're supposed to be, in order to become capable at those things, you're going to have to go through a lot of losses. You're going to have to go through days and nights where you're hungry because you didn't get something on the hunt. Days and nights where you have to worry about the enemy at the gate, or going over and taking something that your tribe needs. All of these things that gave a man agency have been removed. We don't even need men to do battle anymore, because we've been training the video game nerds for decades to do drone warfare and run these robots that they're going to run out when men refuse to fight. So when you look at your life, when you look at what you do, and all you see is, man, it's not where I want it to be. This is not what I want to do in life. What are you doing? What lion tamer are you listening to? You know, a lot of people say that I'm a hater when I speak against these guys that are giving these young boys just poisonous prescriptions on how to deal with life. And it's not being a hater. It's being a man that has seen things and done things in his life. And I'm trying to steer these young men away from this faulty advice. All of these prescriptions are getting you further into the zoo of life. Chasing these things, chasing women that aren't even worthy of you really paying attention to them. Chasing money that will soon mean absolutely nothing once they're finished crushing the dollar. Chasing all of these things that society, the zookeepers, tell you that you're supposed to do. All of these instructions are given to keep you in the cage. I've said this so many times, and I'm saying it again. The best thing that men can do is walk away from everything that has to do with this worldly system. That doesn't mean become a hermit, but what it does mean is get out of your cage. Get out of your cage, whether it be your cubicle, your bedroom, your mom's basement, it doesn't matter. Get out of your cage. Go outside into the wild. Go outside and do something that you don't think that you would like doing, but something that would be a necessity if you didn't have the comforts. A very easy thing for young men to do, if you've never done it, something that is fulfilling, and it'll tell you a lot about your capabilities as a man, is go buy a cheap tarp and some paracord, something to make a fire with, and go to some state park, get a spot, throw a line in the water and catch something and cook it. See, to a lot of dudes, that sounds horrible. Wow, man, I couldn't do that, man. I don't know how. All these excuses, all these reasons why not. But if something happened and that's the only way you could feed yourself, what type of man would you be? Are you a zoo lion that's sitting there at the gate, even though the gate's wide open, waiting for somebody to throw you a snack? Or can you go out and get what you need? To me, that's what being a man's really about. There's so many guys that clap about money and you know what, you shouldn't know how to cook. Just go buy a chicken. The chicken's $5. Hey man, you should know how to raise a chicken. You should know how to process a chicken. You should know how to catch a fish. If you're willing to eat something, you should be at least able to process it. We've gotten so removed. We've gotten so removed from the fundamentals of what it means to be human. We consume things without considering where they come from. Some people gag at the thought of hunting and processing meat, but they'll go to a store and buy it and consume it with no second thought. And most likely the meat that you're eating was an animal that had a horrible life. We have gotten removed from what it means to be men because we've gotten removed from what it means to be humans. We've become consumers. We don't create anything. We don't build anything. We just sit at the gate and wait for somebody to throw something through the bars for us to consume, to entertain ourselves with. And we keep doing flips, keep jumping through the hoops, keep doing what the societal zookeepers and trainers tell us to do. Do this. Be more sensitive. Now they want you to disappear. I agree, you should disappear. Disappear from this cage. Disappear from this delusion that men aren't needed in society. Go outside, get back in nature. Do something that puts you outside, gets you in the sun, put your feet in the grass. Do something and build your tribe of men around men that are willing to do those things with you. Strong, capable men that are willing to go out, suffer, and figure it out instead of getting in a room and being comfortable like females. Young men today are caged lions. If you want to let yourself free, simply walk away from all of the things that the world is telling you about being a man. It's not going to be, you can't find what it is to be a man being inside, watching the screen, listening to goofballs that are in the comfort of their home flex and tell you what it means. Go outside, live your life, gain the experience of a man. Go outside and figure out what you were meant to do in your life. The cage door has been open. Young men have just sat at those bars, refusing to turn around and realize I can walk away from this at any time. Out.